today I'm going to talk to you from Sao Paulo about the dark side of emotional intelligence. Rarely do you hear people talk about the dark side of emotional intelligence. And I just recently wrote an article for a major magazine discussing emotional intelligence and the dark side and the dark aspects of emotional intelligence. But we read, every week there's an article coming out talking about the benefits of emotional intelligence. You hear and you read that if you have high emotional intelligence, you're going to be happier, healthier, more successful. Leaders of large corporate organizations and companies who have high levels of emotional intelligence outperform the competition. We hear that emotional intelligence can benefit us in so many ways. But again, we rarely hear about the manipulative side of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is inherently neither good nor bad, but has the potential to be used for good or bad by the unscrupulous. Election years are good reminders why emotional intelligence can be used to elevate or to manipulate. In my own career, I've done both, and I've seen the dark side of emotional intelligence in action. What do I mean? Well, let's compare Martin Luther King with Adolf Hitler. Both had high levels of emotional intelligence. However, both had very different objectives, and as a result had very different outcomes using the same skill set. You can observe highly altruistic individuals, such as leaders, even therapists, applying the skills of emotional intelligence to improve the lives of others. But on the other spectrum, we can see a host of other professions where people use emotional intelligence to manipulate. Con artists are notorious for honing in on the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of others to manipulate. In the pickup community, we see seminars that are built around teaching men how to seduce women using nonverbal communication, resulting in short-term results at best and rarely in lasting connections with people. Narcissists, psychopaths, also use forms of emotional intelligence to get what they want, but all with a negative end in mind. So what is the missing ingredient to use emotional intelligence for good? According to Daniel Goldman, who's done more to promote and popularize emotional intelligence than probably anybody else, acknowledges what Adam Grant's critique was of the dark side of emotional intelligence. And that missing ingredient or missing element is empathy. Daniel Goldman identifies 3 types of empathy. One is cognitive empathy, where you understand how the other person is thinking. The second is emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is where the other person's emotions strike a chord within you so you can empathize and you understand how the person is feeling. And the third is empathetic concern, where you actually feel the need to want to help that person. You recognize where that person is suffering or needing, and you want to help and do something. In order to avoid the dark side of emotional intelligence requires that we apply all 3 types of empathy. Now let's come down to intent and introspection. And my own journey came down to asking myself some really tough questions. I knew I was really good at influencing people, but what was my intent? Was I lifting people up, or was I just manipulating them? I started to realize I was manipulating them for my own benefit. My desires were ego-driven, and this would never end well for them nor myself long term. But I discovered that by helping people, using altruism and applying empathy within myself was far more rewarding for myself in the long term and much more beneficial for others. To clarify our intent, we need to take an honest, hard look at ourselves, something that narcissists rarely can ever do. It's not always easy, I know, to take an honest look at ourselves and be brutally honest with what we see. We have to master our emotions, our ego, and our animal nature if we want to develop our empathy and altruism towards other human beings. I admit there was a certain thrill to using emotional intelligence as a strategic asset. But however, using these skills to help my students and my coaching clients is infinitely more rewarding. In response to Adam Grant's critique of emotional intelligence, Goldman acknowledges that it's easy to idealize emotional intelligence, but the cynical use of emotional intelligence by politicians and others seeking power should remind us that we need to be careful and honest with ourselves. We need to fully cultivate our empathetic and altruistic selves if we want to help others, if we want to be leaders, role models, and make this a better world. Check out our other videos where we talk about skills and techniques you can apply to develop your emotional intelligence to help others. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have a fantastic day.